Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 5 of RFL Live. And this is the only time it's going to rhyme. Today, we're going to be reviewing round 4 at Azerbaijan, as you can see on the screen now, for the Tier 1 and Tier 2 races. And then later on, we're going to be previewing round 5 in Spain today. And as normal, I am joined by Morgs.
Hello, looking forward to this one again.
Yep. Of course, and we had a couple of good races this weekend, didn't we? Of course, you wouldn't expect much less at Azerbaijan, but this race was previously won by LCR Leopard, which obviously didn't happen again, and no spoiler, Shazoo Kingley didn't win again. So we have two new winners here. So we've had a couple of good races, haven't we?
Yep. The last definitely in Tier 1 at least, the last 3 races have been very, very good. I'd call Australia a good race. Actually, no, all last 4 races have been very good. Australia probably, in my opinion, the worst of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, Baku, it was a good race. But brilliant for Jolly, who's now taken 3 wins out of 4 so far this season, and it was a very convincing win as well for him.
Yeah, and I mean, he's getting used to these now, to be honest. It's a bit like what Leopards did at the start of Season 3, just really dominating. But it's not quite as bad as it was with Leopard. Jolly's not unbeatable. We haven't seen quite that yet. He's been really quick, don't get me wrong. He's astounding throughout the whole season so far. But he just hasn't quite got the Leopard level of dominance. But of course, winning now 3 races. Only 4th in Australia, very much somehow looking like an anomaly, and that's by far his worst result, and it's still a P4. So we'll move on. Obviously, straight to get into it. We're going to start off with, of course, we go in reverse constructors order. So we had quite a few reserves today that we have to talk about as well. I think there was 4 that turned up. So Ferrari, obviously we're getting our first reserve here. King Liam didn't attend again, but we're thinking he might be back, I believe, to potentially score his for the Spain race to score his first points of the season, hopefully after his DNF in Australia. So reserve was Shazoo Schweiz. He qualified 15th, so not great. He was on the hard tyre. And then in the race, he didn't finish, so really not ideal at all. But UK Dark Predator, it's his first race he's been able to attend after his wheel was repaired. And you've got to say, he's come in and he's really shown what he's got, to be honest. It's sort of what we expected, but it was a really good race from him, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a solid result, especially when you consider the fact that he had problems throughout that race. So a very, very solid result for Dark Predator, and just correct you, it's 9th, not 5th.
That was it.
Yeah, but it was a solid qualifying, and he drove solidly in the race as well. Obviously, he got caught up in the lap on Carnage. Even though he's at the front of the grid, he still got caught up in it. But without that, he drove a very solid race. He kept out the barriers, except for that. And as a return, getting back used to driving again, I think that's a very, very strong return for him.
Yeah, for sure. Right. Okay. Sorry, I was just so excited out there. But yeah, it's good for if he did get 9th then. Okay. He has got points on the board then, and qualifying was really good, but he was on the soft tyres, I believe, so he would have obviously qualified a bit higher. I think it was him and Adam who were scrapping up front on those softs during qualifying, so fairly solid qualifying, but not quite beating even Adam in the Toro Rosso. So maybe obviously getting used to it. I think he only had the wheel for a couple of days after not being able to play the game for weeks. So I think we'll quickly talk about Schweiz as well, because I'm not quite sure what happened to him, but he must have DNF'd in qualifying, I assume, because I wasn't actually here for this race. I want to quickly point this out.
He DNF'd in qualifying after, I think, a crash, and then he DNF'd in the race because of a crash. I know that. I saw the onboard footage. It was what he described as it came across as, in his opinion, a very embarrassing crash. He just lost concentration, put it in the wall at the infamous castle section. So disappointing debut for him, but hopefully he'll be back next week and stronger.
Yeah, it'd be good to see him, because of course he was. I think he did Tier 1. It was potentially Monza last season, was it? Not 100% certain, but he did do it was, and he performed really well in it. He was keeping up with the likes of Antmaz, who was obviously champion that season. So he has really got pace, and we'll have to look out for that next time. So we'll move on now to Racing Point. ninth in the championship now, and they have points. Completely new lineup for this race. However, Luca is I've put him as a full-time driver on here because he was at the time, but now he's had to leave due to other leagues going on. His own league commentating. But Spa-Shot, we've finally got to see him in. He was, of course, a reserve for most of this, for all of this season so far. But until Saturday, qualifying wasn't great, but in the race it was really turned that around, didn't he?
Yeah, a whole different story from qualifying to the race. He struggled in qualifying. I think he had a crash, which put him out. But the race, he drove superbly. He was up to 8th at the end of lap 1, and then he drove through that battling pack for second, which was there all race, and what a battle it was, including the likes of Vapid, Adam, drivers that were fighting for second in the championship at the moment. Obviously, that could turn into first. Nantzma's also in that battle, gaining champion, of course. So to fight through that and come on top of it after starting last on the grid, a very strong debut for Spa-Shot, and I'm excited to see what he can do now.
Yeah, for sure. Because of course, in the social race, pre-season race that we did around Brazil, he had some really good pace as well. I remember struggling and having some really good battles against him. So yeah, he's someone who really does have the pace. Obviously, Luca couldn't attend and didn't. So actually, have we decided who takes that racing point seat?
W.R. Verstappen, but he's not here next week.
Yes. Oh yes, of course. Yeah, we discussed that. Okay. So obviously he's got some really good pace as well. So he'll be. I think Racing Point could turn it around this season. Actually, they're going to be a lot later on in this show as we progress through the season because they've got now. Well, they had 2 good drivers for this race anyway, but unfortunately Luca couldn't make it. But now again they've replaced Luca with another quick guy. So yeah, really exciting for them coming up surely.
Yep. They sit now 9th in the constructors. All of their points come from that last race, but it's optimistic for them now because they've caught up massively to that gap ahead. I think the gap has closed significantly to the pack of Mercedes, which is I think in 8th place. I'll have a quick look of the constructors standing. So yeah, they're now only about 8 points behind Mercedes, a further 5 points behind Alfa Romeo, and a further 5 points behind Haas, and then a further 5 points behind Red Bull. So that's instantly a good result to put them even up to 5th or 4th.
That could come this weekend. So yeah, that's really encouraging for them. Of course, with Rampage and Briz at the start of the season, they were unable to pick up any points, and that was we were saying like we were expecting them to pick up some points, and of course now, obviously, with these 2 new drivers, they really are, and they're going to, and that's definitely a team to look out for, potentially for a constructors' threat if they can really pull it together, just get a good string of performances, and you never know. Right, we'll move on to Mercedes now, 8th place in the Constructors' Championship. Not a good race for these guys. Good qualifying session, though, but the race was really, quite frankly, a disaster for them, wasn't it?
Yep, definitely. I mean, qualifying for both of them was pretty good, but in the end, the race just didn't work for them. Nomad obviously had a brilliant qualifying. He qualified 4th. Well, he qualified 5th, but with Baffin's penalty that came 4th. And a second row start for man who's just scraped into the top 10 in 2 of the races so far this season and outside the top 10 in the 3rd. That's a very strong qualifying, but in the race he just had, I think he might have just crashed it by himself. I'm not 100% sure, but he was our first retirement of the race.
Yes.
Chandler, though, he wasn't really anywhere. I might be getting this wrong, but I didn't really see much of him during the race, especially after a strong, solid performance last time out in China, where he got pole, drove the alternate strategy to 4th position. He wasn't really anywhere this time around. I think he got caught up in a bit of carnage on lap 1, and with the jump starts and everything like that. I think he was one of the ones who jump started. But even so, it just wasn't really the greatest day for Mercedes, and no points, and becoming under pressure now from Racing Point in 8th in the constructors and slipping down that order.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, I think something that's very notable is Damon Nomad, whatever you want to call him. He's had a lot of DNFs, hasn't he? He's lost so many points from retirements, from just incidents. He can't really string together a clean race at the moment, can he?
Yeah, I mean, the only race he really was clean was in Bahrain, but the rest he's just he's just got caught up in his own incidents or other people's incidents. And I mean, he could recover it. I think he will. He feels that if everything had gone his way, he'd be on 40 points at the moment, would be second in the championship.
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, if that was the case, I'm really excited to see what he can do for the rest of the season. But he's got to cut out the mistakes as soon as he can, because this could become a problem for him
Yeah.
in the future.
Yeah, a bit like we had with Rampage earlier on as well. Earlier on in the season, just his retirements. Not necessarily obviously costing Rampage high scoring points, but yeah, with Nomad, he's had some. Obviously, his qualifying pace reflects it. He's really quick, and a tier 2 promotion from last season as well. He's really come into tier 1 and show. Wait, I'd like to say he's shown what he's got, but he hasn't quite. He's been there in qualifying most of the time. He is up there, and then just something goes wrong in the race. Something, whether it be his fault or someone else's, he can just not quite get that clean race, and it has really affected him. And Chandler, I guess, poor race for him. Really, he's been really quick and up there all season so far in the first 3 races before this. So yes, it's slightly odd. I think it's not obviously a disastrous race really for Mercedes because no points at all as a team. And as you mentioned with Racing Point as well, this team has the same potential as that Racing Point team. To be honest, it's just they just haven't got the
About finding
finishes together yet.
consistency, yeah.
Yeah. Of course, Chandler as well with all those penalties early in the season. I think he's still 1 penalty point away from a qualifying ban. I think it was. So, yeah, he's really
Yeah.
got to watch out with that. And yeah, that's the thing. He could have had a couple of fifths, couple of fourths, couple of six. Well, obviously not because that would have been 6 races. But you get my point. He could have been in the mid. He could have been getting regular mid-point scoring races. But just those penalties at the start of the season really have damaged him, and obviously the team as well, because they'd be up in the constructors now.
Yeah, obviously he lost 10 points in Australia due to the penalty. He potentially lost a podium in Bahrain, which is another 10-ish points. In China, he pretty much maximised the performance, and he lost a point scoring position this time around. So that's between 20, even maybe 35, 40 points
Yeah.
that he's lost so far this season. And considering he's on 16 at the moment, 20 points would put him just behind Vapid.
Yeah.
If he would have scored in Baku, then that would have been even more. So he's got the pace, he's got the potential, that's there, but it's just about finding the consistency.
Yeah, he's just got to unlock. Well, it's just string a race together. To be honest, he's shown the pace. So we'll move on now to Alpha. Of course, I'd be expecting them to be a lot higher up at this point of season. 2 really quick drivers there, but Ants Maz is finally starting to turn it around. It must be said. Qualified 6th, and then finished racing 4th. So obviously. Not too bad at all. We said he needed to turn in form, but it's still not the Ants Maz we've seen in last season. It's not that dominant display. Normally he'd be up there with Jolly in these races, but he's turned the performance around, but not quite with the race.
Yep, he's definitely getting used to the game. He said to me that he learns a bit slower than most, and you can see as he's gone through the season results, he's got 10th, 12th, 5th, and 4th. So it's improving every single time we go. And in qualifying, which I guess is pure pace, it's 5th, 9th, 6th, and 5th. So it's not been terrible in qualifying, but in the race before this, he just hasn't. He struggled, but he's finding his form now, and he's shot up to 6th place in the standings. So a couple more good races, he'll be up into 2nd in the standings. And now it's just about finding his form to challenge maybe Jolly, but he's definitely getting there.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously we would like to see it. A bit more competitiveness out front. And he's actually starting to climb the table anyway, as it is. So he won't be too fussed with that at all. Clenzo, of course, didn't attend this week. But what do you think he would have potentially been able to do this week? As a real... Obviously, this is a real guess because you don't know his pace. But I've been doing some practice with him earlier today. And he seemed like he had some all right pace. So, to be fair... It could have been an okay race for Alpha here, but of course it's not turned out brilliantly, and they're still quite low in the constructors.
Yeah, well, he scored in every race that he's entered so far this season, which actually surprised me when I found that stat, because his race pace so far doesn't seem to have been good. Oh wait, no, sorry, I was looking at the wrong stat. No, he hasn't.
Except for he had a couple of 11s or something.
Yeah, no, he scored in 2 of the races, though. Yeah. And I mean, considering his race pace, I was actually half surprised about that, because he struggled on the race pace side of things. But I think he would have scored points. Just how many, I don't know. Especially if he got with his qualifying pace, he would have avoided all the jump starting stuff, which I think was triggered by one driver jump at the start, and everyone else just
Oh,
went
yeah.
out of a matter of instinct. So he would have probably been ahead of that because I know his quality pace is really good, and then from there it would have been pretty much guaranteed points as long as he kept out the wall, and I imagine he would. Um, so yeah, that's what I think really.
Yeah. That's yes, fair enough. Right, we'll move on to Haas now. So, it's all right. Brumson though qualified 10th, finished 7th. He's quicker than that. We know that it wasn't a good race for him, really, was it? That's all that can be said.
Well, although he had a really good race in China, I think that was not a fluke, but I think that was a bit misrepresentative of his pace. He's got pace, no doubting that at
Yeah.
all. He is a very, very quick driver, quicker than me. But yeah, he's a very quick driver. But I think for him, it's all about consistency. And I don't think China was a true reflection of his pace. I think he was just good at China. Because looking through his previous results, qualifying in the first two races, he qualified outside the top 10. Um, and then he only scored points in one of the opening two races.
Hmm.
So, I mean, obviously in Australia, he should have really scored, and he should have scored well, but that did come from a strategy in the end as well. So, you could say, I think Brums's pace kind of was misrepresented by China,
Hmm.
but I think he's got the potential. I think he's got it. I think his aim won't be for second in the championship. I think it's going to be for constant points and just see where you end at the end of the season. With how close this season is so far, maybe that will end up being second. You never know.
Yeah, and yeah, that's a good point. TR Pepsi, of course, he's been really consistent in the points. He was one of a few drivers to. Actually, I'm not sure what his string of results were, but he's been scoring really good, low, consistent points. And yeah, obviously not attending this week hasn't helped him at all there. And I think they're going to Spa as well, aren't they? I believe. I think.
Yeah, so both half boys will be missing Monaco,
Yeah.
which is probably one of their. That's going to really hurt them because Monaco is the race that I'd imagine both of these guys to really bring a surprise. They're both consistent. They're both
Yeah.
midfield sort of pace drivers, so they're the ones that could always bring a surprise in Monaco. So I think they'll be a bit annoyed to miss that, but
Yeah.
obviously going to Spa is a little bit better.
Yeah, a little bit better. Yeah, obviously, but yeah, that's one of the few races where they'd really be able to sort of string up that surprise podium. Like we've seen a couple of guys do this season. We've seen actually. I'm surprised also about the amount of podium sitters we've seen. We sort of have what coming into the season we assumed most podiums will be Jolly, Danny, and Ansmaz. So of course with Danny missing a couple of races as well, we've actually ended up with a couple of different podium sitters. That's been really good to see so far.
Yep, only one driver has actually scored more than one podium, and you can kind of guess who that is. Um, but everybody else that scored a podium has only scored one this
Yeah.
season. So podium sitters, Vapid, Adam, Brumson, Danny obviously as well, who won the opening round of the season, and Beacon,
I like
Callum,
him.
and then you've also got Sparshot, Rossi, and Chandler, who all have been on the podium. Oh no, not Chandler.
That's yeah.
Sorry, Ian Boy. There we go. That's it.
Yes, Ian Boy in
Yeah, all of them
Australia.
have been on the podium.
Yes. Yeah, obviously. I think we've about covered it with Haas. I'm not sure there's much more to say about that. I can't think of anything. Doing all right in the constructors. They're sort of, well, obviously lower mid at the moment, 6th place. So not too bad, not too great. It's sort of what we'd expect coming into the season, wasn't it? Sort of 6th place, 6th, 5th place.
Yeah, midfield. That's what I expected. They're doing a solid job at the moment.
Yeah. Right, we'll move on now to Red Bull. We're going into the top half of the constructors' standings here. Callum G qualified 8th, finished 8th, consistent. JJ Rocks didn't race, and here standing in for him was Cal 17F1, who raced last week in China and wasn't able to get points, but this week he came home in 10th and has picked up a point for the Red Bull team. So we'll start off with Callum G. Obviously qualified 8th, finished 8th, consistent. Was it as quiet a race as it seems from the result for him, or was it very manic?
Well, I just want to clear up that Cal doesn't score points for Red Bull, but yeah, that's.
Oh yes,
I just want to clear that up.
Yeah. Sorry, I forgot. Yeah.
Yeah, but Callum, yeah, he actually had quite a hectic race. He got up in towards the top 5 and he was battling for that podium, but then obviously he got a bit of damage and then fell back, had to pit and came out in 8th position. Really couldn't really get up from there. He had to overtake Cal 17 F1, who was on harder tyres, whilst Callum, who was on fresh mediums. So that was a bit of action at the end. But yeah, it was a disappointing day for Callum considering he could and potentially should have been in that battle for the podium at the end of the race.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there's not much more to add again, but Cal, it's good to see him get a point, really. Fairly solid result, to be honest. Like, it's not like we were ridiculously low on numbers either. That's a good finish for Cal. Yeah.
Yeah, I mentioned in the stream it was he was driving very, very solidly. He was keeping out the walls, which some people weren't doing, or
Yes.
getting out of trouble. And he was up into about 6th place, I think, at one point on merit. Obviously, with people on quicker mediums behind on his while he was on hards, they quickly caught up after they had damage and out to pit. So Cal got a bit unlucky there. I think he deserved a stronger result, but that's the way it goes. He just didn't.
Yeah.
In the end, he just didn't really have the pace, and I mean, the qualifying result kind of shows that he didn't have the pace, and he kind of got caught up in the he avoided the carnage, which is why he was there. But that's what you got to do in Baku and Monaco, and even like races like Canada and Singapore, where the walls are there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think with Cal, obviously, it's one thing to have the consistency, but if you don't have the pace to manage it, you're not really going to get these, or to match it. Sorry, you're not really going to get any higher than probably 8th, 9th, really, if it's a chaotic race. Is there any more to say about Red Bull? I cannot think.
Nope.
No, I think JJ's back this week, I believe. I think. And Callum as well should be here. So, of course, the return of JJ as well. He's had some pretty good finishes this season. Both of the Red Bull guys have. So, in Spain, they'll obviously try to continue their good run of form. We'll move on now to 4th in the Constructors, McLaren. They're 1-2 in Australia. We sort of seem to be saying this every week now. Yeah, what's happened? They're sort of riding the 1-2 in Australia on the Constructors at the moment, because otherwise, with the last couple of races, they'd be, well, nowhere, surely. Obviously, Danny didn't race. His reserve Squidgy qualified 9th on the softs, finished 12th. And Ian Boy, not a good race for him either. He won't be happy with that. Not ideal.
Yeah, especially Ian Boy. He's raced all 4 races, but really just banging on those points in Australia.
Yeah.
Without that, where would McLaren be at the constructors right now? If the safety car didn't come out when it did, like if it came out a lap later, we could well be saying McLaren down in 8th in the constructors right now, because Danny probably wouldn't have won that race. He may well have. You probably know. Actually, I think he would have. But whether he did or not, they would be like 8th or 9th the constructors right now, and it's just not ideal at the moment. And although I think Ian Boy is struggling at the moment, and I think he's going to find his form eventually.
Yeah.
He's got the pace. We've seen that in previous seasons, and obviously in Australia. But I think he's going to have to try something different. He's going to have to go back to the alternate strategies or something, because at the moment, starting on those on the normal tyre, you could say it's just not working.
No, not at all. We just have. I don't know if this is breaking news or not. Baz has just said that he's actually going to be missing the next 2 races. So that's not ideal for himself. I'm not sure if we were aware of that before. I certainly wasn't. He's just put that in the chat. So that's obviously, well, as Artie very well put, rest in peace, your championship. So, yeah, moving on from that, we are now gone to Toro Rosso, 3rd in the Constructors' Championship. Slightly overachieving on what we'd say pre-season, but actually if you look at their results, it is somewhat what we expected. Adam qualified first, picked up the pole point, and on the soft tyres course, and in the race, obviously wasn't helped by his strategy too much. Came home P3. Grumpy Lion qualified in 11th place. Really poor qualifying for him, but he was able to turn it around in a race, catch up with his teammate. And it was P6th and had a bit of drama with Vapid as well that we'll get onto later.
Yep. So Adam, solid result. He actually finished across the line in fourth, but post race penalty for Anthem, as we didn't discuss actually after their little
Oh
collision
yes,
across the line,
yeah.
promoted Adam into third. But Adam, brilliant drive, qualified on pole on the softs, granted, yes, but that's an extra point for him. And then finishing on the podium on what you could say is the worst strategy. So good drive from Adam, and he did everything he needed to do. Lion, on the other hand, he drove well. He started on the hards, trying the alternate strategy, which I think was a good idea. He went long first stint. He was up into third or second at one point. And then with the incident with Vapid, which we'll discuss now actually, where Lion was trying to hold up the group that was the second, not just Vapid, but the group to try and help his teammate who had just picked up damage actually. So Adam could have potentially finished second that race without that damage. But yeah, Adam had picked up damage, so Lion was trying to help his teammate out by holding up the pack so that Adam could come back at them. And during that, Vapid just hit the back of him, outbraking himself, and caused a bit of controversy. But in the end, no action on Lion's side and a penalty point for Vapid. But because Vapid was disadvantaged, there was no time penalty given.
Yeah, of course, Vapid actually lost out in that. You mentioned Lion's little tactics there. Obviously, brilliant team play, very, very clever thing to do. But as a driver, that is one of the most frustrating things ever. But then at a track like Azerbaijan as well, if someone's going slow through this tight, twisty section, they're saving all their fuel, they're saving all their ERS, and then just on the straight, they're able to, well, to put it lightly, fly away. You won't be able to get past them. And all the way through this slow, twisty section, they're just holding you up. You can't get past. And I know Lion is brilliant at that. That's one thing that Lion really does have going for him. His pace is not, like, obviously up there. It's really quick, but it's not, top 3, top 4. But his ability to hold people behind him and defend is really good. I found that out in China when we were even battling at the back after pitting. I think it was after lap 1, because we both got damaged. Just the battle we had, he was so hard to overtake. And I was saying that's potentially through the season going to come into play a lot more, because Adam is probably on pace quicker, and if Lion could keep doing these sort of different strategies to his teammate, obviously, because Adam was on the softs, so he wasn't on the ideal strategy anyway, but able to help him that much is something that's probably going to really affect the midfield in this season. So obviously it's something to really look out for, and something I would probably expect to happen quite a bit more. Just the effect it can have is really powerful.
Yep, Monaco's the place to watch for that, and that's going to be some team play is going to be crucial there, and having a good relationship with your teammate, which these two have, is going to be crucial for getting a good result in Monaco.
Yeah, it will be, and I wouldn't expect much less from them, to be honest. If they can keep it out the wall and just sort of hold everyone up, then that's brilliant, really. There's not much more to say about these guys. Obviously, they're going to be looking forward to this weekend in Spain as well. We'll move on now to my glorious team, second in the Constructors' Championship, the Renault. Vapid, really good race for himself. Obviously, it could have been quite a bit more if it just wasn't really for Lion. He was really unhappy with that result. Normally a P5, to be honest. Vapid wouldn't be too mad about that, but he was certain he could have had a podium, and by the looks of it, he really could have. And of course, I did not attend because I was in a car, not the right car though. For Vapid, was it that good a race? Obviously qualified. He was a second qualifier on those medium tyres behind Jolly, of course, who's also on the mediums, who we'll get onto with that medium pole lap. As you had Adam and who was the other one that's going to really
Dark
annoy
Predator.
me? Yes, Dark Predator. Those two in first and second place. And in the race, he was really frustrated. It would be a complete injustice to say he had a quiet race, but he could have had a podium, and I think he was he right to be as frustrated as he was with that result?
I mean, I think he feels like if he's an outsider for the championship, so
Yes.
I guess if he feels that, then there is a right to be frustrated with that because your rival's got the win and the fastest lap as well, whilst you were there in fifth place battling with people that you feel that you shouldn't be battling. Vapid, though, he qualified well, but he had a penalty for a collision with somebody. I think it might have been Genie, in qualifying, which I think I've seen the incident of. I don't think it was deserved at all. But he went down to ninth place then, and he recovered decently. Obviously up to in that battle for podium almost instantly. But obviously in the end having the collision with Line, which was Line's fault. Not Lion, sorry, Vapid's fault. He just outbroke himself.
Yeah.
Lion did nothing wrong, but there was a right deal of frustration from Vapid's side. He feels that Lion shouldn't have been there when he was, but it's racing, and I think Vapid was just a bit frustrated. But in the end, fifth is still a strong result. Some strong points.
I mentioned how frustrating it was, obviously, to be stuck behind someone who's yet to pit, and Vapid did make that point. And to have contact, even if it is your fault, there's nothing more frustrating because realistically, they shouldn't be there. That's the annoying thing I think that he felt. He didn't think Lion should have been there, and I think one way to put it is interesting strategy. But obviously, really good team play from the Toro Rosso guys, and it hinders some drivers, but as a team for those two, it really, really does help out. And of course, Vapid, just by being behind Lion when he has come out a lot worse, and it's sort of ruined his race because of it. And yeah, obviously, he'll be hoping for a much better race at Spain. And I think he's got some pretty good pace, to be honest. I've seen him practicing quite a bit. I haven't practiced with him yet, so obviously I'll have to check all that out. But yeah, it could be a good race for me and Vapid in Spain. So we'll hopefully be trying to get a double points finish because I don't think we've actually had one yet this season. If you discount the bonus points. And yeah, we'll move on, I think, to Williams, first in the constructors' standings here. And they've had, to be honest, Flying Rossi wasn't here. So only one of their drivers scored this weekend, and, well, it's no surprise. It was Jolly, qualified third, highest on the medium runners, and in the race finished in first place. No complaints
with the fastest lap.
Yes, fastest laps. He's actually picked up 26 points there. And it would have been a clean sweep if Adam and Dark Predator didn't go on those soft tyres. So, yeah, for sure. It's a really good race for Jolly. Really good race, but we've sort of come to expect that. Flying Rossi not attended, of course. That's not great for himself to win a championship in that midfield battle. His reserve was always standing. Was Xbox Nuthead, qualified 14th, finished 14th. We'll start off with Nuthead. What happened there? Because I didn't actually see much of him at all when I skimmed through the stream.
Well, he got through. He got in that jump start carnage at the start, and then from there he just really had a quiet race. But I mean, I'm expecting more from him soon. I reckon he will provide more soon as well. He's a quick driver, and yeah, he just didn't really have a strong race. But onto Jolly, just normal Jolly business, isn't it? He led 23 out of the 26 laps. Even when he pitted, he led. The only time he didn't lead was the first few laps when Adam, the pole sitter, was in the lead. So Jolly pretty much led the medium field or the normal strategy field for the entirety of the race. So you could call that a mini clean sweep. But with a fast lap and leading almost every lap, it was just the most dominant display we've seen from him so far. And I compared it to King Liam's form in mid-season 2 on stream, and I think if he can carry this on after he returns when he returns in Monaco, he's easily going to be on for the championship, maybe even before we hit Japan, maybe.
Yeah, of course, if he carries on, this is obviously basically what Leopard did last season. I mean, Leopard left after Spain, I think it was, if this is purely off memory. I think it was after Spain he left. But of course, Jolly...
It was a jumbled calendar, so it was well into the season.
Yes. Yeah, it was like, I think 6 or 7 races in, it was like 13 race season, so yeah. And yeah, to be honest, Williams, it couldn't be going much better. Of course, Rossi sort of being carried by Jolly at the moment in the constructors' standings, but of course, drivers' standings says it all. Rossi surely is going to want to sort of step up. Of course, he missed the last race obviously because he was away, but he's going to want to step up. He doesn't want to be this far behind Jolly, does he?
Yeah, he's got the pace as well. We saw that in Australia. He was close to his teammate almost all of the race, really. And then he beat him to the podium in the end. So they've got Rossi has pace. He just is yet to show it. He scored podiums in his first 3 RFL appearances, and then since then it's just not gone well for him. but he could have got a podium in Bahrain. That could have been more points for Williams. He wasn't really anywhere in China, but I mean, when he returns, I expect him to be right at the sharp end of the field, battling for a podium.
Yeah, and of course that's where we would like to see him, because it's a really good. This midfield at the moment, you sort of have Jolly, and then every other driver just scrapping for second and below, really. Yeah, so it's really interesting this season. I think this is not necessarily from a championship point of view, but it's going to shape up to probably be one of the best, probably, championship seasons for RFL, with the unpredictability that's going on, a bit like Formula E this year. Obviously, just with Jolly out front and effectively dominating at the moment, and his pace is so good. I just can't see him being beaten anywhere unless he gets taken out or makes a mistake. And even in Bahrain, he was spun and he still came back to win the race. It was obviously he didn't get damaged and he wasn't affected too badly, but he was able to fight back with relative ease and then just win the race by about 12 seconds in the end because I had to save my tyres. Is there anywhere where you can see him being beaten, really? It's like, what would have to happen?
Well, with Danny can keep pace with him, we've seen that King Liam can keep pace with him. When they return, get back on form, and even if Antonas gets back on form, they could all be up with him. I think Jolly has got to pull a massive gap and take as many victories as he can. Yeah. I think this pressure will begin to come, especially now with Danny coming back. It will begin to appear again in the next few races. So I don't think Jolly can just settle just yet. He's got some work to do. And with the reserves of Langman and Gorsh coming in, they could stir the pot a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, 2 new reserves, Langman and Gorsh. That's going to be really interesting to see where they fit into the grid. Obviously, it's going to be in the top end. There's no doubt about that. They're both very quick drivers. So, yeah, really interesting to see where they'll end up. I think we'll move on now to the driver standings. We'll have a little look at that. So, Jolly leads by 51 points ahead of Vapid, dominating at the moment. And something to quickly mention, yes, he is pulling out this gap, and it's lovely to have a gap. That's the position you'd like to be in. But that pressure that you mentioned does start to really mount once everyone starts closing in on you. So if you have Danny consistently beating him, Antsmaz consistently beating him, maybe even people such as Langman, when he comes in, consistently beating him potentially, that gap is going to come down, the pressure mounts, you'll start to see maybe more mistakes, and that indestructible Jolly we've seen in these first 4 races, minus Australia, which was just pretty much a bad result, unlucky with safety cars and stuff like that. We can see that invincible look start to break. But Adam, he's notable. Vapid, to be fair, he's just had some fairly consistent races, and if you think of the P3 he should have had as well in Bahrain without that puncture, he'd be well clear of this little scrap. I mean, as it is, he's 7 points clear. But that's not going to be quite enough if he maybe doesn't score this race in Spain. He could be overtaken by 3 or 4 of these guys. If he just had that 15th from Bahrain, that 15 points from Bahrain, he'd be in really good stead at the moment, surely, for that P2.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, he's finished every time. He would have finished without that Bahrain without that Bahrain puncture.
Yeah.
He would have finished in the top 5 in every race so far this season, and that is not championship winning form, but top 3 championship form.
Yes.
So Vapid doing really well at the moment. How long can he continue that? Because in previous games he hasn't been able to.
No.
But he could well do it this season. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think I've seen a lot more pace from him so far this season. It's really encouraging. Yeah. You have Blumson, to be fair to him, he is up in 4th place at the moment, picked up those 6 points in Azerbaijan, and really you just have this really close midfield, separated by, 10 points. You have Danny, Antsmaz, Callum, me, JJ, Lion, Ian, Sparshot, Rozzy, Chandler Sater as well. It's basically fourth down to about 13th, 14th place is separated by 10 points. So that's that midfield that we mentioned. And I'm sort of living on that podium at the moment from Bahrain. The rest of my results have been awful. And there's a real mix in here. A couple of people are being quite consistent. So Obviously, JJ's only done 2 races, 4th and 6th place, good for himself. That's consistent from the races he's done. Callum G, 3rd, 9th and 8th recently, consistently in the points. Obviously, bad race in Australia. He was caught up in carnage on the safety car restart's the only way to
And
say
also
it.
China and Baku could have been so much more. China got a penalty, he finished 6th in the end.
Yes, yeah.
Before that, Azerbaijan, he was in that battle for the podium before he got damaged. So that could be so much more for Callum. It could be so much more for almost every driver, except for Jolly maybe at the moment.
Yeah, pretty much. To be honest, our RFL ultra accurate predictions really taken a hit from this midfield battle. I think it's got to be said. Sort of looking on the lower end of the field, you sort of have the only sort of the lowest consistent drivers, like consistent turn ups. TR Pepsi, Clenzo. Nomad as well, Chandler. Of course, so we've said Chandler, he could have so many more points at the moment. Clenzo, his race pace hasn't quite been there. He's been involved in a couple of incidents as well. Pepsi, consistent low points, 8th and 10th, of course, in the last 2 races he's participated in. If he can keep that up, he's going to be around probably 13th, 14th come the end of the season. It's a really interesting scrap, isn't it? And to be honest, there's no real patterns emerging yet. It's all really random. So, yeah. If you have to take a guess from that midfield, who do you think, obviously apart from Danny, who's not done the last 2 races, who in that midfield is really going to sort of, as the season goes on, what order are we pretty much going to see this in? Who's going to be at the top? Who's probably more likely to be at the bottom?
I mean, I can't look past Vapid at the moment because you could say he's only like he's been consistent, but he could be so much more as well without that Bahrain. He would be without Bahrain. He would be almost 25 points clear of Adam. He wouldn't be 25. He'd be about 22, but that's almost a race win clear, and he would have been about 35 points behind Jolly. So I mean, Vapid for him, it could be so much more at the moment, and if he can continue this form, he'll be right there at the end. Danny, I can see obviously if when he turns up consistently, he'll be right up there. Antsmad, I think though, towards the end of the season, he will be very, very fast. I think, especially considering what I know of him. We saw in season 2 at the start of F1 2018, he wasn't really anywhere, but then in season 3 he was rapid and just one of the quickest drivers out there. So we could well see that development again from him, and maybe that will come to we'll see it more towards the end of the season come Singapore, Russia, Japan, Mexico, so on.
Yeah, of course, there's so long to go in this season. You sort of have Ant Smaz. It'll be interesting to see what he can do as he comes to learn this game a little bit about. We're only 4 races in. We're just about a fifth of the way through the season. Not even that yet. It's really unpredictable at the moment. So it's gonna be it's really interesting. So I meant a quarter, not a fifth. No, it is fifth. Quality maths here. GCSEs went all right, but I've forgotten maths now. We'll move on to the constructors' standings now for Tier 1. Williams very clear at the moment, 47 points. Actually, the gap between Williams and Renault is less than the gap between Vapid and Jolly, so at least there's a bit more of a battle going on in the constructors. But then if you look at this constructors' battle, the gap to the car in front, or to the team in front, of course, 47, Williams to Renault, and then 8, 8, 2, 7, 3, 5, 8, and then obviously 16 for Ferrari, but they're going to turn that around as well. A good result from any of these teams is going to propel them second, surely.
I wouldn't say second if Racing Point get a good result. I don't think they're going to go to second. But yeah, I know what you mean, and I have to agree with you because looking at that all of those midfield drive teams, I think any of them could get right up there with a good result. Most likely to do that, I think Renault will be second come the end of Spain, but the gap could be close to McLaren. I think will take second in the constructors at the end of the day.
Yeah,
but that could change. Maybe Alfa Romeo, maybe Ferrari, even because they've got 2 very quick drivers in those cars, and obviously they've only really had 2 races where they've only scored 2 points because obviously King Liam raced in Australia and Dark Predator raced in Azerbaijan.
Yeah.
So if they race every week for the rest of the season, they will easily, I think, be challenging for that second. They've got 2 quick drivers in those cars, and they could easily do something in those cars.
Yeah, obviously I'll be hoping that they don't because I'm quite enjoying second place. That'll do. Really, everyone here could turn around. I think apart from Haas, really, and maybe no, because McLaren could turn it around. Well, I say turn it around; they're fourth at the moment, but really get these good results. Any of these teams could really come into form. I know it's gonna be really harsh to single these out, but the only team I really don't see having a joint turnaround in form is probably it's probably Haas and probably Mercedes, maybe, unless Damon really can turn it round with these retirements, because you can see here
But
retirement, fifth, retirement. It's yeah,
Bumson's quick though, and Pepsi's gained most positions out of anyone from qualifying to the race. So
yes, yeah,
don't count Haas out for anything yet. I think they're going to be. I think any of them, to be honest. I don't think there's one team that can't improve if they. I don't think any of these teams have hit potential.
no,
Not one at all.
no.
Maybe not even Williams, because Jolly probably has,
And yeah,
except
Rossi's got
obviously
to,
Australia. But
yeah,
Rossi just hasn't hit his potential yet. We know that. I think any team can improve from where they are at the moment,
mm.
except maybe Renault. Maybe the gap's a bit too big there already.
I can't see that changing anytime soon. I think that'll draw us to an end for Tier 1. Of course, we'll be doing a little preview later on. So we'll go on now to the Tier 2 qualifying grid. So on to the Tier 2 section now. Azerbaijan, short qualifying session, of course, 18 minutes. And, first thing to look at there is AMS Joel's got a 5-place grid penalty. That's not good. I watched that from earlier on when I was setting all this up. What did he get that for? What did you see? Did you not see?
I don't think I saw it, but obviously it affected him quite badly because he got caught up in a lap one incident.
Even down to 9th as well,
Um, he got caught up in a lap one incident in the race, so obviously it didn't help him at all.
No.
Standout performances there though. Two Ferraris, very very strong, and in the race they were strong as well. In the opening stages of the race, I think Joe had a couple problems, but they were strong. And then you've got a couple of standout performances. Paul on debut there, we thought we'll see more of him. I'll discuss him in the race as well.
Yes.
But he was strong in qualifying. Anyone else that stands out there to me? Beast Tornadoes was surprisingly low on his hards. I expect him higher up, but obviously on
I
hard,
think F1 Ben
it's
as well could be a bit
understandable.
higher, but he's on hard tyres though, so I'm assuming he had an incident in qualifying along with Beast Tornadoes. Of course, Adam Lee and Joe, really good laps, but of course they were on soft tyres and still 6/10. Well, Adam Lee 6/10 off at Emerald, who of course is really quick. He was on the softs as well, and I mean the highest medium ran a big 1.7 seconds off of Emerald. That's really concerning for the rest of the Tier 2 grid, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's definitely concerning for them. But yeah, Emerald's not invincible. Emerald didn't hit Pred's time from Tier 1, so he's not unbeatable. And Adam obviously beat that time by 8/10 of a second. So I think Emerald's not invincible, and it's just the others are going to have to step up their game and learn from him if they're going to get anywhere close to him.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll move on now to the race. Of course, actually, Label Red definitely was on the podium last week and only qualified P8 this time round. Of course, he's on the mediums, though. It's a good stead for the race. We'll move on now, of course, to the race results. And obviously, standout win. Down from 14th on the grid and winning by 8 seconds. I'm assuming the alternate strategy really helped him out there. I'm assuming he went to hard medium.
I'm trying to think.
Yeah,
I think
I'd guess.
I don't think he did actually. I think he went the normal medium to hard. He just had pace early on. Yeah, he definitely had a lot of pace. But Bisson is up into second as well. Those alternate strategy worked for him. But also a lot of carnage as well definitely brought Tom into play. Oh no, Tom did go hard mediums actually.
Yes, yeah, okay.
But yeah, no, he did go hard mediums. But the reason I got confused is because Paul on the mediums actually pitted later than Tom.
Okay.
Which is why I got confused.
Fair enough.
But Paul was leading and probably was a runaway winner, but had a crash at the end, towards about lap 19-20, which put Tom going into the lead. And then Tom just kept his cool, kept composed, and went on to win.
Yep. Tom, of course, that's his first RFL win, isn't it, I believe?
Yep, first ever RFL win, Tier 1 or Tier 2. He's been in both throughout his time here, so
He'll
good
be
win for
happy with
him,
that.
and hopefully for him, first of many.
Yeah, he went from potential. Well, I don't want to say bottling a podium because he still had to overtake about 3 cars on one straight. But in China, he was on the back of that pack and he made a mistake. He spun, he lost out, and I believe in Bahrain he spun as well. I remember Lewis saying. So yeah, to get that win, it's really a boost for him. Labour Red Devil, he was of course podium last race out in China last week. And then this week, P8 is not ideal for him, but it's still good points, to be fair. It's just not. I think China was very much a very good track for him. And actually, Beast Tornadoes as well from 11th on the grid. Did he utilise a strategy, or really was that just pace as well?
Yep, but both really. He was up in towards the battle for the podium within a few laps, but he had some strong pace and he had a good strategy as well. So I think both the top two, Perez had a good strategy, but he got caught up in an incident. I'm just having a look through. Artie had a really, really, really strong race, but he got caught up in an incident with Labour Red Devil when Labour Red Devil was actually on for 5th position. Adam Lee, he did really well. I want to say Emil did well, but I know that he probably wishes he could have won that race. And he had the pace too.
Yeah, what happened there? 24 seconds. That's a massive
it's
gap.
with Perez, and I think it might have been. I'm trying to think who it was. It might have been X Joe.
Yeah, that would make sense by the looks of it.
I think those came, or it could have been out later. It's one of the Ferraris, I think it was.
Yeah.
Which gave Emerald a tiny bit of damage, Perez loads of damage, and put Joe out the race, or just gave Adam more damage. I've kind of forgotten what happened, what the other guy was, but I actually forgotten the stream as well, I think. But yeah, that kind of prevented Emerald from really challenging the top two. Perez did well to defend away from Adam Lee and Artie, who were putting pressure on him at the end of the race. Lewis got caught up in an incident. Championship leader, of course, before this race. He got caught up in an incident. Didn't help him at all as well in his championship battle, especially with his rival and teammate Drift King Pro missing Azerbaijan. So, yeah, just a few comments there.
Yeah, trying to look at it. I'm trying to think of anyone else who's a bit of a standout. Yeah, BMG Lewis, Paul Race, you mentioned. Artie, okay, race for him. Of course, he actually said nothing less than a podium would be good for him, so he won't be happy with that result. And of course, DNF's Paul, you mentioned, really good position. Joe, Forpsy retired. That's much sad. We can't be bullying our co-presenters for this show. Tier 2. We'll look at the Drivers' Championship because I think we've just about covered the race, to be honest. There wasn't much more by the looks of it. So, Tier 2 Drivers' Standings we'll look at now. And currently, BMG Lewis still leads the championship by 9 points ahead of his teammates. It's still Alfa Romeo 1-2. So it wasn't too bad. Drift King Pro, of course, not turning up to the race. And potentially, if he did, he could be in the lead of the championship right now.
Who was that? Sorry,
Drift King Pro,
yeah. Sorry, I was kind of half. Drift King Pro. Yeah, if he was there, I think he would have probably taken that opportunity and gone into championship lead. But obviously, life comes first, so he wasn't. He wasn't there, and he's actually been quite lucky to only stay within 9 points of him. But he's now under pressure from Tom Goy and Explode Emerald, and potentially even Labour Red Devil and Perez, who will all come into this battle. And I think it's going to be a very, very good fight for the championship. Maybe not between just the two Alfa Romeos as we suspected before the start of at the start of the season after their dominant display in Australia.
Yeah, for sure. That 1-2, they're sort of not quite as bad as the McLarens in Tier 1, their turn in form. But it's not been ideal for them. Of course, they went 1-2 in the first race to 3-4, then 4-2. So, yeah, first 3 races have been really good. But, yeah, this time out, scoring only 6 points as a team, not ideal at all. Tom, though, with that win, boosts himself up into third. That's really good. He's actually only 13 points. Actually, the Tier 2 title, as opposed to the Tier 1 title, really is on this season, isn't it?
Yep, I think any of the top 6 can win it at the moment. But then again, Artie could well have had the pace to win. He thinks he did, and on a default setup, he drove brilliantly in from the back of the grid. So he could well get in the battle. But at the moment, I think it's a 6-way battle, and any of the top 6 can win.
Yeah.
But I think, in all the respect I can give in this, I don't think the Haas boys have enough pace. We saw in Australia they were 30-odd seconds in the race away from the two Alfa Romeo boys. So, with all due respect, I just don't think they have the pace in comparison. But they seem to have been finding their form recently, and with Labour that probably could and should have got fifth in that race, I think those Haas boys can get involved in this battle for the championship.
Yeah, it's fair to say it's a real turnaround in form as well for the Haas boys, because they weren't, they've got 2 podiums now as a team. And the first 2 races, their highest finish was 4th. I mean, it's all right. It was 4th. Well, between them, they had a 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. So it's not too bad. But it was that sort of midfield team, so you'd think consistent midfield. But they've really turned it around. Turned it around as of now, haven't they? I'm trying to think. Emerald, of course, he's climbing up the standings. Actually saying that, I think he got overtaken by Tom this week, so not quite. But yeah, another podium and only 17 points off the lead. You could see in a couple of races him potentially being up there, but he proved in this race, he was only P3, he got outscored by 2 other drivers, Beast Tornadoes, who of course in his first race now, P8, and he's not quite in the championship battle, 40 points off, but he's there as well if he can carry on this sort of form. And same situation potentially with the latter half of Tier 1 we could see. Your sort of top drivers, just all of a sudden there's a couple more guys climbing up the standings, starting to pose a little bit of a threat, and it does, the pressure builds. And I think we're in for a really exciting season here in F2, not F2, Tier 2. And maybe some of the reserves could do all right. Well, I say some. Beast Tornadoes, really. If he could get himself a full-time seat, he'd be really useful for constructors as well.
Sorry, just Paul 7572. He was beyond the win, and obviously he then crashed.
Yeah, I forgot about
that. The season goes on if he decides to stick with us.
Yep. Yeah, of course he's going to have some really good pace as well. There's so many things that could go on. Tier 2 is always incredibly unpredictable. We thought Tier 1 normally is also as well, but Tier 2 you always have no clue what could happen, and I think we are starting to see a bit of that already this season. I mean, there's a lot of varying results here. Not as good as attendance as a Tier 1, but overall you have your consistent guys at the top, and showing that regularly being there does pay. The lowest driver who's turned up to all of them, actually there's only a couple, but that's Scott, not doing well at all. Only picked up 2 9th places. He won't be happy with his season so far. Thorpesy as well, actually. And yeah. So if and Axkov as well, not turned up to any races. He'll be, I'm assuming, losing that McLaren drive somewhat soon.
I think actually Paul might have taken that seat. I'll have to double check.
Yeah, we'll have a look at that.
But yeah, he is. Axkov now does.
Yep. Okay, cool. Yeah, I thought he might be. So, quickly, Tier 2 constructors. Alfa Romeo, of course, 1-2 in the Drivers' Championship. They're up there in first place. 24-point gap to the Haas duo. Racing Point, then, 25 points behind Haas. Red Bull, Mercedes, Renault, Williams, Ferrari, Toro Rosso, and then McLaren at the bottom. But, of course, I won't say if Paul did that, but no, he's now full-time, we think, potentially. So, McLaren could be climbing up soon. Replacing Axkov. And so, old predictions, we'll have a little look at these. So, we'll start with Lewis first. So he said Vapid Coot would win Tier 1. Obviously, not quite. Jolly would come second. 1 place off. Close enough. JJ Rocks in 3rd place, which, of course, didn't happen either. JJ didn't turn up in the end because I believe he was on holiday again. Had to get the again in. Tier 2, Exploding Emerald, not correct there. S. Perez, not correct there. And Drifting Pro, not correct there. So, of course, the RFL is still very ultra-accurate. Predictions are proving to still be very ultra-accurate. Morgs, you want to talk through yours?
Well, I got one.
Yeah.
Jolly. everything else is a complete disaster. So yeah, Jolly winning, of course, and I put him first. Bumsen, he just wasn't really near second at any point in that race.
No.
So yeah, that prediction was off. No, but I mean, he qualified second, so I mean, he was close. He was on the podium in qualifying, but not in the race. Slipping down to ninth in the end is of course a bad luck, and he did drive solidly though when he didn't have that drive through. He just couldn't really cover back up the field on the worst strategy as well, because that strategy really is only for track position. Exploding Emerald then obviously he finished third, so I guess I got a podium position right. Then Perez, he just wasn't there. He finished fourth, and then Artie in sixth. So actually, I got the order that these three would finish in relative to each other correct. Just their actual finishing positions are wrong.
So mine, if you look at the medium runners in qualifying, mine's fairly accurate, just not in the race or in any way, shape, or form. Of course, Jolly, I got that one right. Vapid, of course, came home P5 after his his rather interesting race. Antsmaz, I put, would come third. That obviously didn't happen either. He's fairly close, so I was sort of there. Tier 2, Emerald, I thought would win. He didn't. Came home P3. BMG Lewis, I thought would come second. He didn't either. And Drift King Pro P3, and of course he didn't even attend, so that one went horribly out the window. And yeah, I think that's going to do it. So we'll move on from the old predictions to track preview for Spain. We'll really quickly go over that. So, round 5. This is soon, I think, we're going to be able to start drawing comparisons as the midfield's potentially going to start to split a little bit more. So round 5, of course, I think it's 33 laps. That was off the top of my head. I didn't actually check that on the game. Circuit length, about 1.5 kilometres or so shorter than Baku. First race for RFL was in Season 1, and the last race was in Season 3. And the winners last time out were LCR Leopard. I think it was the end to his real dominant season, because I think that was the last race he did. And then Tier 2 was Damon Rocks, who of course is now in Tier 1. So where are you looking at on this track? What's your, what areas are you going to be looking at as a commentator in these races?
Turn 1, definitely. Obviously, main overtaking opportunity. One of the longest runs down to turn 1 all season, which is going to be very, very interesting to see. Obviously, not as long as Mexico, but very long. So that run down to turn 1 crucial for a good start to the race. And then you also got probably turn 4. You've seen collisions there in the past. In real life, infamously, really, in 2016. Other places, turn 11, maybe, after the second DRS straight. That's a possibility of overtaking and just getting a good run out of the chicane, though, and down towards turn 1 is probably going to be the main point of action throughout this race.
Yeah, of course. I'd say, to be fair, I agree with you. There's not many points. Of course, the uphill, what corner is it? I believe it's turn 11. That's not an ideal corner at all. You can hit a bump on the entry to that corner, and it's not nice on the exit of 10. And that is a bump that nobody likes, and for some reason I normally end up in a wall at the end of it. So to be honest, if I don't spin at any point, I'll be pretty happy in this race. Of course, from overtaking point of view, you're looking at turn 1 quite a bit, the hairpin, or sort of hairpin into turn 10. Down into probably turn 5 as well, you could potentially see a move. And apart from that, I'm not sure where else you're really going to get the job done, because there's a lot of fast corners here and it's not very easy to make moves. Turn 1, of course, is a really dangerous place to try to make these moves, and I've been in races before where you've tried to go side by side with someone and it doesn't quite end well, so it might be a race of potentially through these fast corners backing out, especially with the new contact model, much more likely to spin you. I think we'll move on now to the new predictions, and then we'll wrap up. So, I'll start with Lewis, actually, again, because he's not here today. I haven't actually mentioned that. He's not here today because he's busy. Tier 1, Vapikut. He's put will win the race because Jolly cannot make it this week round, so none of us have him in our top 3. Spar Shot in 2nd place, and then me in 3rd place. He likes putting me on the podium. Tier 2, Exploding Emerald. Can he come back from that Baku defeat? That's what Lewis will be hoping. BMG Lewis as well. Obviously, different Lewis there. And in second place, and then in third place, S. Perez he's for. So, interesting predictions there. I'd say there's not really one that stands out. Of course, a Vapid win would be quite big, and Danny as well. He's assuming he's not going to make a comeback at all if he... that'd be interesting. What should I talk through yours?
Yep, I'm happy to do that. So if I just get them up on my screen, so I can look. Yeah. So Danny F31, I think he's going to come back and win. I just have a feeling he will. Jolly's not going to race, by the way. Just get that now. Before people forget. So Danny's going to win, I think, on comeback. Vapid Cute's going to be second position, keeping the consistent there on the podium potentially. And UK Dark Predator, I think, is going to come home in third position. Now, I predicted him third last week. He'd let me down. Hopefully, he won't let me down this time around. Tier 2, Emerald. I wanted to say someone else, but I just think he's going to do it.
Yeah.
Perez, I think he's got the pace as well. Pulsar to in China and second place finisher in Bahrain. Hopefully, he can get up in that fight as well. He's championship contender, of course. And then BMG Lewis, championship leader at the moment in third position. I'm hoping that he can really find his form after a poor race last time out in Baku.
Yep. Sorry, I was yawning then. Right, so I put for tier 1 a Vapid win because I'd like to see it. He's my teammate, you know what? Danny, I think he's not going to be quite on form, but he's going to be up there. He's going to have the pace, and I think it's going to be a fairly good battle for the lead. And I've put myself P3 because I think my pace is all right, and it's better to be really cocky and do really well. So tier 2. I've put Exploding Emerald. I just think he's a sort of logical winner. The pace he's shown is fantastic so far. Drift King Pro, I've put in second place. And then in third place, S. Perez. And of course, I haven't got BMG Lewis on there. I think potentially he's going to have another Azerbaijan and maybe lose the championship lead to his teammate. So we'll have to see what goes on in this Saturday's race. It's only tomorrow because, of course, we had to reschedule this live show. So tomorrow you're going to join us all on the socials. Of course, you want to be joining us on Twitch at actually, what is our Twitch name? I think it's just Racing
Formula League.
Yes, okay. I did think it was. I couldn't remember if it's RFL F1 League, which is our Twitter. And Tier 1 race will be at 9 p.m. UK time, and Tier 2 race will be at 7 p.m. UK time, of course. And we can see how ultra accurate the RFL predictions are. That's only going to end well. So, I'd like to thank Morgs for being here again today, of course. I think it's next week you can't be here, is it?
Yeah, next week I can't be here. Commentating and RFL Live.
Yes,
so
yes.
I will be watching well, not this, because I'll be flying, but I will be watching the races.
So it's a likely excuse, but, we can eat. I'm not going to stalk him anyway. Yeah. So we'll see how the championship shapes up. And, of course, when you catch up with all this, you could be seeing a very different standings. So midfield battles, potentially a new leader in Tier 2. There's a lot to look out for this weekend, and of course we'll be here hopefully next Thursday if all goes well. And I'll probably be with two people who weren't here today, Lewis and potentially Artie. So we'll have to see. But I'm assuming Lewis will be back, so we'll at least be with him. Thank you everybody for watching and sticking with us for the last hour or so. And for RFL Live, Episode 5, I love the sort of rhythm that has. Goodbye, and thank you for watching.